The desert market. Marcus Chin wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped off the cargo ramp into the blistering heat of Xerian Trade Station. The twin suns overhead turned the metal platforms into griddles, and the air shimmered with waves of heat that made everything look like a fever dream. He had been hauling freight across the outer colonies for 5 years now, and Xerian was always his least favorite stop. Not because of the heat, though that was bad enough. It was the smell of desperation that clung to every corner of this place. The station sprawled across a dead moon like a rust-colored infection. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds came here to trade, gamble, and do the kind of business that wouldn't fly in civilized space. Marcus needed fuel and spare parts, nothing more. Get in, get what he needed, and get out. That was the plan. But plans had a way of dissolving in places like Xerian. He made his way through the main bazaar, dodging hovering merchant drones and alien traders who shouted in languages that sounded like grinding metal or singing crystals. A four-armed Telkari offered him counterfeit navigation chips. A blob like Huresh tried to sell him spices that smelled like burning plastic. Marcus kept his head down and his hand near the plasma pistol on his hip. Not that he was looking for trouble, but trouble had a way of finding humans out here in the fringe. The marketplace was divided into sections, each one seedier than the last. Marcus passed through the tech quarter where smugglers sold stolen ship components. He walked past the Vice District, where gambling dens and pleasure houses competed for attention with flashing lights and promises in a dozen languages. Then he reached the Labor District and his stomach turned. Cages lined the alley like merchandise displays. Inside them, beings of various species stood, sat, or slumped in defeat. Some were prisoners of war. Others were refugees who had sold themselves to survive. A few were criminals working off debts. But all of them wore the same expression, hollow eyes staring at nothing, hope burned away by circumstance. Marcus told himself to keep walking. He had seen this before. There was nothing he could do about it. One man with a cargo hauler and a shrinking bank account could not fix the galaxy's problems. But his feet slowed anyway and he found himself looking at the faces behind the energy barriers. That was when he saw her. She stood in a reinforced containment cell designed for dangerous captives. Tall and powerfully built, she had the distinctive features of a Takreen warrior. Gray-blue skin marked with ceremonial scars. Sharp, angular features that spoke of generations bred for combat. Eyes like molten gold that burned with an intensity that made Marcus take an involuntary step back. She wore the tattered remains of military armor, scorched and broken but still recognizable. 3 others huddled behind her. 2 younger Takreen, barely more than adolescents, and a smaller alien Marcus did not recognize with pale green skin and large, frightened eyes. The warrior woman stood between them and the world like a living shield, even here in captivity. Their eyes met across the crowded alley, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest. She did not look away. Did not lower her gaze in submission or despair. Instead, she studied him with the calculating stare of someone assessing a potential ally or threat. Then, slowly and deliberately, she moved forward until she stood at the very edge of the energy barrier. "Human," she said, her voice cutting through the noise of the marketplace like a blade. It was a command, not a question. Marcus glanced around, wondering if she was talking to someone else. But no, those golden eyes were fixed on him. Yeah. You are alone. No guards. No companions. No obvious affiliation with the cartels or guilds. She spoke standard Galactic with precise pronunciation, though her accent was thick and musical. You walk like someone who does not belong here. That's accurate, Marcus admitted. I'm just passing through. The warrior pressed closer to the barrier. Then pass through with us. Please. The word please seemed to cost her something, as if it were a language she rarely spoke. Bias. Take us away from this place. Marcus blinked. Of all the things he had expected today, this was not on the list. I'm sorry, what? I am Zaraketh, former SHIELD commander of the Takreen 7th Legion. She straightened her shoulders, and despite the dirt and exhaustion, she looked every bit the officer she claimed to be. These are the remnants of my squad. We have been prisoners for 43 days. If we remain here another week, we will be sold to the mining corporations and worked to death in the asteroid belt. That's terrible, Marcus said, and he meant it. But I'm not exactly in the market for. I am not asking you to become a slaver, Zaraketh interrupted, her voice sharp. I am asking you to be our escape route. Purchase us, take us off this station, and we will find our own way from there. I can compensate you once we reach Takreen space. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I sympathize, I really do. But I don't have that kind of money. Buying people is expensive even in a place like this. How much do you have? The directness of the question caught him off guard. Not enough. Zaraketha's eyes narrowed. Name your amount. Marcus sighed and told her. It was the truth, most of his savings plus what he would make from his current cargo run. Enough to keep his ship flying for another few months if he was careful. Not enough to retire, not enough to buy property, barely enough to matter. Something shifted in Zaraketha's expression. Not quite hope, but something close to it. That may be sufficient. The trader who holds us is desperate to move inventory before the station authorities conduct their quarterly inspection. He will negotiate. You've been planning this, Marcus realized. I have been planning this since the moment we arrived. Zaraketh glanced back at her companions, and her voice softened just slightly. I am responsible for them. I will not let them die in a mining shaft, forgotten and unmourned. One of the younger Takreen, a male with bright green eyes, spoke up in their native language. Zaraketh responded sharply, and the youth fell silent. She turned back to Marcus. He asks if you can be trusted. I told him we have no choice but to find out. A nearby speaker crackled to life, and a synthesized voice called out in multiple languages. Interested buyer detected. Representative approaching. A figure emerged from the shadows at the end of the alley. It was a grask, a species that looked like someone had given an octopus delusions of grandeur and a bad attitude. Its tentacles writhed as it oozed forward, and its multiple eyes fixed on Marcus with calculating intelligence. Human customer, the grask burbled in accented standard. You admire the Takreen merchandise? Very fine quality. Warriors well trained. Strong. Obedient. Zaraketha's expression could have melted steel, but she said nothing. How much? Marcus asked, trying to sound casual. The grask named a price that made Marcus's stomach drop. It was 3 times what he had available. That's a bit steep. Quality demands payment. The grask gestured with a tentacle. These are not common laborers. They are military-trained assets. The female alone is worth twice the asking price. Marcus looked at Zaraketh, who stared back at him with an expression he could not quite read. Bride? Shame? Determination? All of the above? He took a breath and made a decision that his more sensible self would definitely regret later. I'll give you this much, Marcus said, naming his entire available funds. Take it or leave it. The grask's eyes rippled with what might have been amusement or annoyance. That is insufficient. That's what I have. You said yourself the inspection is coming. How many buyers do you think will walk through here before then? How many will want to purchase military prisoners who might cause trouble? Marcus crossed his arms. I'm offering you a clean sale right now, no questions asked. That's got to be worth something. The silence stretched for several long seconds. The grask's tentacles twitched and curled as it calculated. Finally, it released a sound like air escaping from a tire. You drive difficult bargain, human. But acceptable. Transfer funds now. Marcus pulled out his credit chip, his hand shaking slightly as he processed the transaction. Every credit he had saved, every safety net he had built over 5 years of careful work, all of it drained away in seconds. The grask verified the transfer and the energy barriers flickered and died. Zaraketh stepped out first, moving carefully as if she expected a trap. The others followed close behind her. Up close, Marcus could see just how worn they looked. Bruises, cuts, the hollow cheeks of inadequate rations. But Zaraketh held herself like royalty, and the others drew strength from her presence. We have a deal, human, the grask said. They are your property now. Do what you wish with them. They're not property, Marcus said flatly. They're passengers. The grask made a sound that might have been a laugh. Foolish sentiment. But not my concern. It slithered away, already moving toward its next transaction. Marcus turned to face his new companions. 4 pairs of eyes stared at him with varying degrees of suspicion, hope, and exhaustion. Right, he said. My ship is this way. Let's get off this rock before I change my mind. Zaraketh inclined her head slightly, a gesture of respect. You have our gratitude, Marcus Chin. And our service until this debt is repaid. I don't want your service, Marcus replied. I just want to get you somewhere safe. Then you do not understand the Takreen, Zaraketh said softly. We pay our debts. Always. They walked through the marketplace together, an unlikely group that drew stares and whispers. Marcus led them toward the docking bays, his mind already racing ahead to the complications he had just invited into his life. No money for extra mouths to feed, and a growing certainty that he had just made the most expensive and possibly dangerous decision of his career. But when he glanced back and saw the way Zaraketh walked, head high, shoulders back, protecting her people even in freedom. He knew he could not have done anything else. The ship awaited, and with it whatever consequences would come. The hunter's pursuit. The Wandering Star was not an impressive vessel by any standard. Marcus had purchased her 8 years ago from a salvage yard, and she showed every day of her age. The hull was patched in 17 places, the artificial gravity flickered when you sneezed too hard, and the environmental systems made a wheezing sound that Marcus had long since stopped trying to fix. But she was his, paid for with honest work, and she had never let him down when it truly mattered. Zaraketh stopped at the base of the boarding ramp and studied the ship with an expression that Marcus could not quite interpret. The two younger Takreen, who she had introduced as Vekron and Sh whispered to each other in their native tongue. The small green-skinned alien, whose name was Pip and who apparently did not speak much standard, simply stared with wide eyes. "This is your vessel?" Zaraketh asked carefully. "Yes. I know she does not look like much, but—" "She is beautiful," Zaraketh interrupted, and there was genuine warmth in her voice. "She is freedom." That simple statement hit Marcus harder than he expected. He cleared his throat and gestured toward the ramp. "Well, let's get that freedom off the ground before someone changes their mind about our transaction." They climbed aboard and Marcus sealed the hatch behind them. The ship's interior was cramped, designed for a crew of 2 but currently housing 1 overworked cargo hauler who used the extra space for storage. Crates lined the corridors, and Marcus had to move several boxes of medical supplies to clear a path to the common area. "Sorry about the mess," he said. "I was not exactly expecting guests." Zaraketh surveyed the space with a tactical eye, noting exits, structural supports, and potential defensive positions. Old habits, Marcus supposed. Vekron and Sh collapsed onto the worn couch in the common area, exhaustion finally overwhelming their reserve. Pip curled up in a corner, watching everything with those large, luminous eyes. "The sleeping quarters are through there," Marcus pointed down a narrow hallway. "There are 2 bunks. You 4 can figure out the arrangements. The refresher is the second door on the left. Food dispenser is here, though I warn you, it has limited options. Water is unlimited, so drink as much as you need." Zaraketh nodded slowly. "You are giving us your personal quarters." "I sleep in the pilot's chair most of the time anyway," Marcus shrugged. "Might as well let someone use the beds." "This generosity." Zaraketh started, then stopped. She seemed to be struggling with something. "Why did you help us? You do not know us. We are not your kind. You owe us nothing." Marcus leaned against the bulkhead and considered the question. "A few years ago, I was stranded on a station not unlike Zirian. My ship had been sabotaged, my cargo stolen, and I was broke. I was this close to selling my ship for scrap and finding work as station crew somewhere. Then this old Centaurian trader, guy named Vextal, offered me a job hauling his goods. No questions, no collateral, just trust. He told me that the measure of civilization is not how we treat those who can help us, but how we treat those who cannot. So I guess I am paying that forward." Zaraketh studied him for a long moment, and Marcus had the uncomfortable feeling that she was seeing far more than he intended to show. "You are either very wise or very foolish, Marcus Chin." "Probably both," Marcus admitted. "Now, if you will excuse me, I need to get us out of this system before anyone notices we are gone." He made his way to the cockpit and settled into the pilot's chair, running through the pre-flight sequence with practiced ease. The Wandering Star rumbled to life around him, her engines coughing twice before settling into a steady thrum. Marcus requested departure clearance from station control, paid the docking fees that made him wince, and guided his ship away from Zirian Trade Station. As the station shrank in the rear display, Marcus allowed himself a moment of relief. They had made it off the station. The hard part was over. Or so he thought. Zaraketh appeared in the cockpit doorway, moving with the silent grace of a trained warrior. "May I join you?" "Sure. Co-pilot's seat is all yours." She settled into the chair, her movements careful and controlled. For several minutes, they sat in companionable silence as the Wandering Star accelerated away from the moon. Then Zaraketh spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "You deserve to know what happened to us. Why we were in that cage." Marcus glanced at her. "You do not have to." "I want to." Zaraketh stared out at the stars. 6 months ago, the Kryn Dominion invaded Takreen space. We had heard rumors of their expansion, but we did not believe they would dare attack us. The Takreen have been warriors for 10,000 years. Our military academies are legendary. Our fleet was powerful. She paused and pain flickered across her face. We were arrogant. What happened? They came without warning. Thousands of ships, all at once, hitting every major colony simultaneously. Their weapons were unlike anything we had encountered. Biological agents that turned our own people against us. Nanite swarms that consumed our ships from the inside. And worst of all, they did not fight to conquer. They fought to harvest. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Harvest. The Kryn do not see other species as enemies or even as lesser beings. They see us as resources. Raw materials to be processed and utilized. Zaraketha's hands clenched into fists. My ship was defending the colony on Takreen Prime when we were hit. Most of my crew died in the first wave. I managed to evacuate 37 people, including Vecron, SH Lara, and Pip. We fought our way to an escape vessel and ran. But you did not make it far. No. The Kryn have hunter ships that track refugees. They sell us to traders on the black market. Easy profit, minimal effort. Zaraketh turned to face him directly. They are still hunting us, Marcus. They will not stop until we are recovered or confirmed dead. Marcus absorbed this information, his mind racing through the implications. How long do we have? Unknown. Could be days. Could be hours. The Kryn are thorough but not infinitely fast. She met his gaze steadily. You can drop us at the next inhabited system. We will find our own way from there. You have already done more than anyone could expect. Marcus thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No. You said you need to reach Takreen space, right? To warn your people, to find survivors, whatever the plan is. That is where we are going. Zaraketh stared at him in disbelief. That is a 2-week journey through contested space. The danger is probably less than what you have already survived, Marcus finished. Look, I'm not a hero. I am just a guy who hauls cargo and tries to do the right thing when possible. But I did not buy you just to dump you at the nearest station. We see this through. You bought us to free us, Zaraketh corrected. This obligation is yours to define. Then I define it as getting you home. Marcus returned his attention to the navigation console. Now, let me plot a course that avoids known Kryn patrol routes. And maybe you can tell me more about these hunter ships, just in case we run into one. Zaraketh was silent for a long moment, and when Marcus glanced at her, he was surprised to see moisture gathering in her golden eyes. Thank you, she said simply. Do not thank me yet. My navigation skills are questionable at best. That earned him a small smile, the first he had seen from her. Then I will teach you. It is the least I can do. Over the next several days, an unexpected rhythm developed aboard the Wandering Star. Mornings, if you could call them that, in the perpetual day-night cycle of space travel, began with Marcus attempting to cook breakfast using the food dispenser while Zaraketh drilled Vecron and SH Lara in combat forms in the cargo hold. The young Takreen moved with fluid grace, their bodies remembering training that had been interrupted by war. Pip, as it turned out, was a child of the Vishen species, a race of empathic telepaths who had been nearly wiped out by the Kryn. The child did not speak much, but Marcus often felt waves of emotion from Pip's direction, gratitude and fear and slowly growing hope. Zaraketh treated Pip with gentle patience, and the child clung to her like a shadow. In the afternoons, Zaraketh would join Marcus in the cockpit and they would talk. She told him about Takreen culture, about the honor codes that govern their society and the family bonds that define their identity. Marcus told her about Earth, about humanity's chaotic spread across the stars and the 1,000 different ways humans had found to be both noble and stupid. Your people sound exhausting, Zaraketh observed one day. We are, Marcus agreed cheerfully. But we are also stubborn, creative, and really hard to kill. There is a saying, humanity did not reach the stars because we were the strongest or the smartest. We reached them because we were too stupid to know when to quit. Zaraketh laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. I think I would like to meet more humans. Careful what you wish for. We are kind of a lot. She also began teaching him Takreen combat techniques, insisting that if they encountered trouble, he needed to be able to defend himself. Marcus was clumsy at first, his human body lacking the natural flexibility of the Takreen, but Zaraketh was a patient teacher. She showed him how to use an opponent's momentum against them, how to find weak points in armor, how to stay calm when everything was chaos. You learn quickly, she said after he successfully executed a disarming technique. I had a good teacher, Marcus replied, slightly out of breath. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Or the beginning of trust that went deeper than gratitude. Marcus looked away first, suddenly uncomfortable with the intensity of her gaze. On the 6th day, the ship's sensors detected something that made Marcus's blood run cold. A vessel was approaching from behind, moving faster than any commercial ship had a right to move. Its profile matched nothing in the standard databases, which meant it was either military or worse. Zaraketh took one look at the sensor reading and went pale. Kryn Hunter's ship. They found us. How is that possible? I have been careful with our route. They track biochemical signatures, Zaraketh explained rapidly. Every species has a unique molecular profile. They can follow it across light years. She turned to him, her expression grave. You need to run, Marcus. Push your engines to maximum and do not look back. They want us, not you. Absolutely not, Marcus said, already adjusting course. We are not splitting up. Marcus? No. He cut her off with a sharp gesture. We are in this together. Now help me figure out how to outrun that thing. Zaraketh stared at him for a heartbeat, then nodded sharply and slid into the co-pilot seat. They are faster, but your ship is smaller. We can use that. There is an asteroid field 12 million kilometers ahead. If we can reach it before they close the distance, we might be able to lose them in the debris. Marcus pushed the engines to their limit, feeling the wandering star shudder under the strain. The Hunter ship gained steadily, its superior speed eating away at their lead. Warning lights flashed across the console as various systems protested the abuse. Come on, girl, Marcus muttered to his ship. Just a little further. The asteroid field appeared on the sensors, a chaotic maze of tumbling rock and ice. Marcus did not slow down. He plunged into the field at full speed, weaving between asteroids the size of buildings, his hands flying over the controls with desperate precision. Behind them, the Hunter ship followed, firing particle beams that superheated rock into vapor. They are trying to hurt us, Zaraketh said, studying the tactical display. Push us into a dead end where they can disable the ship. Then we do not go where they expect. Marcus spotted a gap between two large asteroids, barely wider than his ship. Hold on to something. He spun the wandering star 90 degrees and shot through the gap sideways, scraping paint off both sides of the hull. The Hunter ship, larger and less maneuverable, could not follow. It was forced to go around, buying them precious seconds. There, Zaraketh pointed at the display. That asteroid has a hollow center, probably from mining operations. We can hide inside. Marcus aimed for the indicated rock, a massive tumbling mountain of iron and stone. The opening was barely visible, a dark mouth in the asteroid's surface. He cut the engines at the last possible second and let momentum carry them inside, activating magnetic clamps to anchor the ship to the interior wall. Darkness swallowed them. Marcus killed all non-essential systems, reducing their energy signature to almost nothing. They sat in silence, listening to the ping of the sensors as the Hunter ship searched the field. Minutes crawled by like hours. Vekron, Eshlara, and Pip had joined them in the cockpit, all of them holding their breath as the Hunter ship's sensors swept past their hiding spot once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th pass, the enemy ship moved away, searching deeper into the field. They are leaving, Eshlara whispered in accented standard. Not yet, Zaraketh cautioned. They are patient. They will circle back. She was right. 15 minutes later, the Hunter ship returned, this time moving slowly and methodically. It passed within 100 meters of their position, close enough that Marcus could make out details on its hull, the organic-looking curves of Kryn biotech, the weapons ports that gleamed like dead eyes. Then it moved on, and this time it did not return. They waited another hour before Marcus dared to restart the engines. When they finally emerged from the asteroid, the Hunter ship was gone, a distant blip on the sensors moving away from them. We did it, Vekron said, disbelief clear in his voice. We survived, Zaraketh corrected. But they know we are in this sector now. More ships will come. Marcus plotted a new course, one that would take them through less traveled space. Then we move fast and stay smart. How far to Takreen space? 8 days at maximum speed. Then that is what we will do. Marcus looked at each of them in turn. But I want something clear. If this happens again, we do not abandon each other. We are a crew now, whether any of us planned for it or not. Understood. Zaraketh stood and placed a hand over her heart, the Takreen gesture of deepest respect. Understood, Captain. The title hung in the air, strange and weighty. Marcus had never been anyone's captain before. He had always been alone, responsible only for himself and his cargo. But as he looked at the 4 aliens who now depended on him, he felt something shift inside him. Purpose maybe. Or belonging. All right then, he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Let us get you home. The journey continued, and with each passing day the bonds between them grew stronger. Zaraketh taught Marcus the Takreen concept of Drakthar, the warrior's oath that bound comrades closer than blood. Vecron showed him how to maintain plasma weapons properly. Lara, who had a gift for languages, began teaching him basic Takreen phrases. And Pip, slowly overcoming trauma and fear, began to trust him with small gestures, a touch on the hand, a smile, a wordless expression of gratitude. On the 10th day they crossed into Takreen space, and Zaraketh wept openly when she saw her homeworld on the scanners. The planet was scarred by war, but it endured. Survivors were rebuilding, gathering strength, preparing for the next fight. Marcus brought the wandering star into orbit, and Zaraketh turned to him with eyes that held 1,000 unspoken words. You kept your promise. I told you I would. Many would not have. She reached out and clasped his forearm in the Takreen manner. You have given us more than freedom, Marcus Chin. You have given us hope. And for that, you will always have a place among the Takreen. As they prepared to disembark, Marcus realized that his ship felt emptier already, even though they had not left yet. He had grown accustomed to their presence, to Zaraketh's quiet strength and the younger one's energy. The wandering star had been a lonely place for a long time. He had not noticed until it was full. Will you stay? Zaraketh asked quietly as if reading his thoughts. The Takreen could use someone with your skills. And your heart. Marcus looked out at the scarred planet below, at the ships gathering in orbit, at the people rebuilding from ashes. He thought about returning to his old life, hauling cargo from station to station, alone in the black. The idea felt hollow now. Yeah, he said finally. I think I will stay. At least for a while. Zaraketh smiled, truly smiled, and it transformed her entire face. Good. Because we have much work to do, Captain. And I think this is only the beginning of our story. As the wandering star descended toward the planet's surface, Marcus realized she was right. This was not an ending. It was a beginning. He had set out to rescue 4 refugees and ended up finding something he had not known he was searching for. A purpose, a family, a place where he belonged. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of darkness. But it was also full of moments like this, where strangers became friends and one person's choice to do the right thing rippled outward in ways impossible to predict. Marcus Chin had been a cargo hauler, alone and drifting. Now he was something more. And whatever came next, he would face it with his crew by his side. The wandering star touched down on Takreen soil and a new chapter began.